Yeah, it's as good a time as any, I suppose. I never really did address yesterday's video. I kind of just worked on it and ended the video abruptly whenever the customer came in to pick up his computer. But I never did really talk about wonderful, yeah, I bump a heater and it turns on. Wonderful all-in-one computers. I did pose that question though in the description for the YouTube video. So these all-in-ones, we have two here, and I actually have one at home, a bigger, very similar version of this, only it's Intel instead of an AMD. And if you look over there, we have another all-in-one. Good or bad? How do I address this? Well, I would say they're good and bad. When something breaks, it's not like a desktop. Desktops are your best option for if something breaks, replacing that part, because they're all generally separate components. So yeah, desktops. And then laptops, you know, they're a little more, laptops and all-in-ones are kind of the same thing, where if they break, it's a little more expensive, because your motherboard is going to have usually your processor, you know, your processor and some other components on it, versus a desktop where the processor is generally, not always if you buy these cheap cut corner PCs, but the processor should be removable, your graphics card would be removable from a desktop, whereas some all-in-ones and laptops do have removable graphics cards, but not all. So they're good and they're bad. Just know your hardware. If you don't, find somebody you can ask. Give us a call here, 342-7533, and we'd be happy to answer any questions about computer hardware. You know, if you're looking to buy a new computer, a laptop, an all-in-one, or buy a pre-built desktop, such as, you know, an older Dell or a newer Dell, anything like that. The bench is cleaned up. I was just finishing up some paperwork, and while I was working on this paperwork to get actually that Dell out of here, I thought I would do the stream today about this. What be the... Well, okay. Well, before I do finish the paperwork, and this is going to be crazy trying to show you this. I thought about how to try to do it, and for the most part you're looking at a jumbled mess when looking at my computer. I don't have any camera directly on it. So, all-in-ones are good and bad depending what you buy. The cheaper of a price that you pay for your all-in-one computer, the worse of an experience you could have. And also some expensive ones. You know, take for example some of the high-end XPS all-in-ones and the Macs. Every computer has problems. Sometimes it does come down to luck of the draw. Back to this. Basically, this is a microphone mute switch. And how we can address that, we're going to get our little white paper out here, or bigger white paper, and hopefully a marker that will draw. That way it's easy enough to see. Okay, we got a tip on that Sharpie. So just basically a microphone mute switch that I made, and you could do this with a momentary switch. Momentary meaning when you press it, it's activated. When you release it, it comes back out and it's unactivated. This switch is a step further. It is a latching, a push-on, push-off switch. I don't think it's you could call it maybe a latching, locking momentary switch. It's not like a slide switch, or not like a rotary knob, potentiometer, or anything like that. This is more your push-on, push it to come back off. Now this will work with mic level, and mic level is a little different than line level or headphone level, being that line level is much louder. Okay, line level is much louder. And basically what we have here is I made this for, I wired it up with 3.5 millimeter ends. Okay, and you could do this with an XLR cable. You can make an inline mute switch for an XLR cable the same way. The only difference is I am not 100% sure this, what I'm going to draw out, will work with a, oh, what do I want to call it? Work with a condenser microphone, like a microphone that requires 48 volts. I'm not sure that this is the way to do it. This will work with line level or headphone level. And it's very, very crude right now. I would like to install it into a box, get some heat shrink covering the different metal contacts where wires are soldered and exposed, or possibly cover it in some hot glue, something, and then install it into a small box, you know, something super small. Maybe even, you know, a block of the stiffer foam. Who knows? There's a lot of things you could install that into. The main point being, this will work with your mic level. It'll also work with line level and headphone level, but it works more as an attenuator depending on the level that you have your gain set at. And this is, I'm talking level of your gain when dealing with like an audio mixer. In my case here, the recorder, which is always just slightly off screen right here. You can see the blue cable laying on the back of the recorder there. And this blue cable plugs into the recorder, but it's never on screen. I did move my Stream Deck. It's basically the programmable keyboard that lets me switch from camera to the screen. Yeah, so that's on screen. I wanted in a different position to my keyboard and mouse, so no longer in the way, out of the way over here and on camera. No huge deal. Back to this thing. Basically how this works is you have your switch, and this is a, I believe, single pole, single throw switch going by the tabs that are here. We have two connectors here to solder wires to. And this is going to be a real crude drawing of this. Okay. I need to be much further zoomed in. Let me see if I can find a box to at least set this up significantly higher for everybody to look at. What can I do? How can I do this, people? Okay, milk crate it is. I have an old, dirty, dusty milk crate here. We will get it closer to the camera for everybody. Okay, you have your switch here. We'll bring this up. So we have our switch. We've got the button. We'll put a B there, and then we have each of our connectors. And this is resembling this switch, single pole, single throw, and they make a lot of different types of single pole, single throw switches. Like I said, you could use a momentary. You could use a push on, push off. You could use a toggle switch, a rocker switch. There's a lot of different switches you could use. I chose the lock, push on, push off versus a momentary. A momentary I would have to have mounted and throw something with a little bit of weight on it to keep that switch engaged if I wanted to keep it muted. So, and then you have, in this case, I have my, what are they, 3.5 millimeter headphone ends. And this is going to be real crude here, and we'll go one further. So this is just the sheathing. Okay, so we have the tip, the ring, and then the sleeve, which is SL, and we'll put an H here for heat shrink. Not important, so let's get that out of here so nobody's looking at that. Generally, you have your three sections. What you're going to do is you're going to let the sleeve wire connected and run through from side to side. If you have, and in my case I do have three, tip, ring, sleeve, tip, ring, and sleeve there. Basically, the sleeve, the bottom wire, your ground wire, runs the whole way through. In this example that I made it, I cut it, but I did solder it back together. So it is connected. You could just leave it one piece. Well, I didn't cut it. I used two separate pieces of wire. And then what you would do is you would take your ring wire and your ring wire and run them to the same contact, or in this, your right wire, the red wire is usually how I identify it. As long as you wire both sides the same, it's going to work. So the ring or the red wire or right, and I usually make the white or whatever other color other than red they use, the tip, the left, whatever you want to call it. So you would run the ring wire from both sides to one side of the switch, and then you would run the tip wire from both sides, both connectors, to the other side of the switch. And what that does is when the switch is in the off position, it lets your signal travel through, because you are connected from side to side on this one tab, and you're connected from each side to side on the other tab with your red and white wire, and then your ground wire runs throughout, or ground, common. There's a lot of different names for it. This is designed for like I said, a dynamic microphone at mic level. It will work for line level and also headphone level mute, but it all depends on your gain, or some, if you're talking mixers. I haven't tested it with like volume on headphones, but I do have a headphone output on my wireless unit for my microphone. So I tested it there. There is a headphone output, and I went from the headphones out into the input on the mixer USB audio interface on my recorder, whatever you want to call it over there. Okay, so like right there, I just physically switched off my mic to cough real quick because it was loud. Didn't want to blow out anybody's ears, and that's where a mute switch would come in handy. Instead of having to switch off your mic, off my wireless transmitter that's in my pocket, I literally could have hit the switch if I had it wired up in line, and it would have muted the mic signal. Now, why I say it's for a dynamic mic level device, I'm not sure about the 48 volts that Phantom Power uses for condenser microphones or ribbon microphones, if they're a condenser type microphone. We're going to test this, and we're going to use the SM7B, and I will actually switch off my mic that I am using for, or my wireless lavalier mic. And another thing, why I think it may work different with my wireless mic versus my dynamic microphone here, is the wireless mic on my shirt is a type of condenser microphone. It's a wireless lavalier condenser microphone. So it's different than a dynamic mic in a sense, and I'm not going to go into explaining the difference between the mics. Dynamics typically use no power, no phantom power. Condenser microphones use phantom power. And my mixer recorder audio interface over here can use those different types of power. However, we stick with dynamic mics for the podcast for this show, except for my wireless mic. It is not dynamic. So give me a second here to get this wired up and get this other mic powered on, and I will switch off. My wireless microphone transmitter. Okay, so we are officially wired into the recorder there. I don't like the position of it, but we're wired in. I wish I could get it more on screen so everybody could see this. I suppose I could switch over to that mic. Who knows what it's going to look like? Probably bad, but let's try it. Okay, can you see the recorder? You can see the recorder. This is going to look super horrible. All we want is our little button here. Okay, we do have our button. And we are wired into the recorder here. Sorry, those batteries look crazy on screen for me right now. So we have out of the recorder to our mute switch running around to the wire that goes to the preamp for the mic, the effects processor, and then that runs out to the other end of our microphone here. Hey, thanks for calling, we're closed. And you're not a valid caller, you are some kind of telemarketer wanting us to spend money, so we're not taking calls like that right now. I will be happy to call you back when you're at home and see if you want to buy something from my shop. Other than that, I cannot help you. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this mic up here. I'm going to go ahead, and this may sound weird. If it does, I apologize. I'd never tried running both of these at the same time.
So you're probably hearing a slight delay. I'm going to go ahead.
Turn the gain down on this mic again. You're hearing only my wireless mic. So what we're going to do, we'll actually...
Okay, the wireless mic is now off. We'll go ahead and bring that up here. So that mic's not even a consideration now. And we do have the Shure SM7B dynamic mic running into a different channel on the mixer. You should still hear me. And I have this turned up over here. This mic should sound substantially better than this one. However, you know, whenever you need to cut noise, you need to cut noise. So we are using this mic. We're going to flip back over to our recently moved camera. And what happens whenever you hit this button, it creates a shorting out, not letting the signal go through. That's going from, you know, through each pole here on this switch, or each connector on this switch. So when we take and hit the switch, engage it, it mutes the signal and you can't hear anything. So seeing that we are talking, I'm going to go ahead and mute again now. As far as I know, whenever I do hit the mute on this, that is the way it's, and whenever I hit mute, it does not create a loud pop. So that is the way it is designed for this type of circuit. Now, the other reason is what I just mentioned, why I said this is more or less designed for a dynamic microphone instead of a condenser mic or a wireless condenser lavalier microphone. When hooked up to line level or headphone level, which we're going to do right now, give me a second to get this mic back on. And none of that came through. Alright, so I'm going to mute this mic.
Okay, and now I have my wireless mic back on now. This same little circuit here, the mute switch that I showed you, whoa, that don't work. This here, when connected to the dynamic mic I just showed you, it works wonderful. So we're going to go ahead and unplug. If you guys hear any noise or popping, I am sorry. We'll go ahead and get this all disconnected and get my other mic plugged back in like normal. Okay, so that mic is plugged in. What I am going to do is, while I'm connecting this mic, and I've tried it, funny enough, I've tried it on both ends. I've tried it on the wireless pack right here. I've tried it on this side, the mute, and the mute, maybe it did work, I'm not sure. But let's go ahead and try it right now. So what I'm going to do is switch off the mic and get this connected on this side. Okay, so our mic is back now, and if we hit the button, does it work? No, it does not. We're still going into the recorder. So, as far as the mic this way, getting power from my pack to power this mic, and hitting the mute switch, it does not kill, it does not attenuate, it does not mute, it does not attenuate the signal whatsoever. Now, let's try it in the line port. Okay, so doesn't work on that side, on the side of mic to the wireless transmitter. Let's try on the side of the receiver, and we have the receiver here. This is a mess, I'm sorry, but this is stuff I use daily for things. So, and probably the most I can pick this up is right about here, and we're just gonna do a real similar thing. We're gonna go ahead and plug in, and this is going to get a little bit louder, so I'm going to apologize in advance for that. I will try to talk a little quieter. Okay, and now that we are getting about the same level right there. We're getting close to the same level when I talk. We're not quite getting up to negative 20 decibels, so the stream is going to be a little quieter right now. But the difference is when we're plugged into line level, because this is line out from this pack, and we're running line out to our input on our mixer. And let's try and switch to a line input instead of a mic. It's going to get loud. Even though the receiver for my wireless mic, it says it's outputting line out, but it's really not. It is outputting mic level. So we have to stick at mic level on the recorder here, on the audio interface, I should call it. But when the difference is, we didn't hear any clicking and popping when, using this mic here. We did not hear clicking and popping when muting the mic. Whenever we mute it, even though it's mic level here to mic level on the mixer, we will hear a noise. Listen. So when we disable it, we're getting that loud. It's like a pop. It may not be super loud, but it is loud. We're still getting the mute effect, which I can show you here as best I can. Okay, so whenever we take and mute with our mute switch, you're not hearing any of that. We're still getting the mute effect, but we're hearing that loud pop as soon as we engage the mute switch. So that is why, and let me switch this back quick. Okay, that is why I said if you make a mute switch like this, or are planning on making one, to use one, go ahead and make it for a dynamic microphone. And if you plan on using it with wireless transmitter packs, or for like a wireless mic setup, know that it's probably going to make a noise. And what that tells me is it's probably something due to the connection of the wireless transmitter receiver going to the audio interface, mixer, recorder. It's a 3-in-1 device. It's pretty neat. I want to do a video on it sometime. We switched out to it, I think, back in February, March area for the podcast and the live stream. Well, I switched out to it for the live stream, but the ultimate goal was to use it for the podcast. It took months to figure it out and get it set up. It is super complicated to me compared to an actual mixing board, but there's a diagram how to do that, and we'll just run over that real quick again. You have your button. you have two poles on that, or two connectors on that, on the bottom of that switch, your button, mute switch, mute button. And again, this is if you're going TRS, or stereo balance. I don't think balanced is the same thing, but you're going to connect the tip from each side to one side of the switch, and then the ring from each side to excuse me, to the other side of the switch. Let your sleeve wire or your ground run throughout. Just have it connected from side to side like a normal wire. And that will give you a mute switch when working with a dynamic microphone that is unpowered. When you mute it, you're not going to get a loud pop. You can mute it for a loud passing car. If your studio or wherever you stream from isn't too quiet, you know, wherever you're recording your podcast, if you need to cough, sneeze, you can tell somebody's going to get up or move, make whatever, any noise you want to keep out of your microphone, that switch will work for you. Now, the next thing I intend to build, we'll flip back over to this camera, is I'm going to build a four in, 4 out button like this. I want to make it so I can plug 4 microphones in and have 4 little outputs going out. I'm going to have 4 XLR in to the box that I plan to make. So whatever size box is basically going to be a box, and I got to figure out all the wiring for it. And we're going to have one button which will be a mute all. Today, spam caller. And then I'm going to have 4 independent buttons, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those will be for each individual mic where I can mute something. I don't think I'll use those a whole lot. I mean, maybe if my 2 amazing co-hosts are talking, or, you know, bouncing stuff back and forth with each other, or talking to me, and I have to sneeze or cough, I could use mine. And I would like to expand that further in when we get a more permanent setup in the shop, this studio area. I would like to have a mute switch at each seat, like, you know, whatever. If I have to drill into the table that we're going to have at the time and actually mount that button there, like, hey, if you got a cough, sneeze, or whatever, just go ahead, hit that button, and boom. And I will make it a momentary switch, is what I would like to do for each person's station. Yeah, but that's a very useful thing that you could do for a dynamic microphone mute switch. It does work with line level and headphone level devices, which are much louder than mic level. And if you turn your gain down enough on mic or headphone level, it will work the same as with the dynamic microphone, but your ultimate level when unmuted is not going to be real loud and probably not be very useful. So I would just stick to using it on a dynamic microphone at mic level. And there you go. That is the mute switch. Not a great presentation, not a great life hack or, you know, studio podcast hack, whatever, but a useful one, I thought, because I'm constantly finding times when I need to mute my microphone real quick, and to do it on the 3-in-1 device, I gotta push a knob, go in, tap on a touch screen, and then take and tap another spot on the touch screen, go to a different knob, turn that knob up or down, or keep tapping on the touch screen. Yeah. Or I can tap on the touch screen, tap through a menu, you know, 4 or 5 times, dig deeper into that menu once I get to the right screen, and then mute. No, not what I'm looking for. So that was my open hours for today. Like I said, I'm constantly finding little things that I need to make, at least in my life, and maybe they'll be useful to somebody else out there. That's my real hacky, real quick and dirty dynamic microphone mute switch. I'm probably going to try and improve upon the design if and when I do make the box that I was just talking about here. Sorry, here, with the mute all and then individual mic mutes. I'll be happy to show everyone that too. Like I said, this is just something I made today in a few minutes of spare time. Cut the wire, stripped it, soldered it on. soldered connectors on the other end of the wire, heat shrink, and good to go. And this will work with 3.5 millimeter connectors. It will work. I did go ahead and test it. I didn't want to do all that on stream for anybody watching, but it will work if you're using TRS, which is the 3 poles, TS, which is you have 3 individual. It will work if you're adapting from 3 to 2, which is basically stereo to mono. So you have the 3 sections separated by the 2 plastic rings, or the 2 sections separated by 1 plastic ring if you are adapting from 3 section 1/4 inch to XLR, or if you have a way to go from 3.5 millimeter to XLR. It works. So, that was today's project, today's open hours. Still battling out converting files with this all-in-one. This one is newly acquired for the shop, so we're going to find a purpose for this one. We found a purpose for old Benson over there. Thanks again, everyone, for joining me. If you haven't, please go and check out dtcomputers.online. It's a website that I built for the shop here. It's not a real robust website. First time I ever built a website, I actually did it on Squarespace. If you don't know anything about building, and this is going to sound like a sponsored video, I promise you it is not. But if you want to build a website and don't know the first thing about it, Squarespace will, you have to at least be able to use a computer, and Squarespace will give you a good experience. Over at dtcomputers, open hours is there. I have my layout for the after hours. I just have to put it up, and a few more posts. I know I talk about this stuff and it doesn't happen right away. Too many pokers in the fire, people. Too many pokers in the fire. Too many pies in the oven. Whatever. There's just a lot going on. But we do have the sections home. Open hours is at the bottom of that. A little bit about the shop. What we does, that is kind of like a blog where I want to put up stuff like the video I made today. I'll put up an actual post about that little dynamic mic mute switch. The podcast has not been revived yet. We do hope to get it back up. I don't know what the holdup is. I guess just lack of downtime. And then there is the contact page. Funny enough, for a guy that tries to keep the details there, I did not put our phone number anywhere on the page. I think I'm going to do that. If you do have questions, feel free to contact us at the shop. Like I said, 814-342-7533. Dave or myself would be happy to try and answer your questions. We don't know it all, but we know some things about some things. So hopefully that will work out. Tune back in again tomorrow for more open hours. I don't know if I will do an after hours tonight. Usually I like to do one or the other on a daily basis, but I don't always achieve that goal. Maybe someday, not today though. Thanks again for watching. Head on over to my YouTube channel if you haven't already been there. Think about subscribing, trying to build up a following there, a fan base, and I will see everyone again tomorrow for open hours, hopefully, if not after hours. Thank you.